Does season 3 of Reacher hold up to the previous seasons?
We just watched the finale, so let's see what we think. Hello, everyone.
Hi, everybody.
I'm Danny.
I'm John.
This is our Charm Midlife, and we just finished the season 3 finale of Reacher. Oof. We're going to talk about the entire season.
Yeah, I want to fight somebody.
Oh, no. I'm in danger, girl.
I'm a lover, not a fighter.
All right, so Reacher is a show on Prime Video. The third season, as well as the first two, had 8 episodes. And here's the write-up for the entire show, not just season 3.
Okay.
Itinerant former military policeman Jack Reacher solves crimes and hands out his own brand of street justice. Easy for me to say. This is based on the novels by Lee Child. So, Alan Ritchson plays Reacher. I tried to just pull out from this season. Maria Sten is Neely, and Neely is actually getting a spinoff of her own. So we're kind of excited about that.
Yeah, looking forward to that one.
And then in this season, Anthony Michael Hall was in it. Brian T. was Quinn, and Sonia Cassidy was Duffy. That's kind of all I pulled out for this season.
Those are the principles.
Yeah. So, let's see. How do we want to talk about this?
Ooh, I don't know. I'm still a little exhausted.
Yes. The third, the second to last, the penultimate, and the finale were very exhausting.
Yes.
Then again, you get exhausted every episode.
Every show is exhausting. I don't know what it is. We sit down to watch it, and I'm nervous already. And I'm nervous through the whole show.
Yeah.
And I know he lives. Because
there's another season coming.
Because there's another season coming.
This season felt more like that than the first two. I didn't like season 3 as much as the first two.
I did not either.
Yeah. So, just for those that haven't watched, and I'm not going to spoil anything, but season 1, we're introduced to Reacher himself. We're introduced to kind of how he lives, and very little about his background, but enough that you're with him and you're following him. And you really end up liking him. Season 2, we really dove into his past. We found out about his crew from the military, and we really got to like him then because we got to love all of these people.
Yeah.
This season felt like they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue with that.
It was Reacher back out on his own, but he comes into this story involving the DEA and this guy, this past villain of his, which I was all for, but it just didn't. The story bothered me. It was a little too perfect, like where you were saying you were nervous every episode. Yeah, because he keeps getting away with stuff. Like, things just didn't make sense to me in this season where it was like, there would be cameras there, or everything just always seemed to work out so perfectly for him that he would get away with whatever he needed to get away with. And that just gets tiring after a while. You really do want him to get caught or something like that so that it's not just this magician that keeps working things out every time.
Yeah, this season definitely made you suspend belief more than the other two.
Yes, I think that's what it was. Yeah. And it was also over something very, not dumb, but
a little pedestrian.
The DEA agent needed him to infiltrate this whole thing to find this one woman. And I kept forgetting about that. And then the DEA agent would pop up again and go, "Where's Teresa?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, Teresa. I forgot that's what this whole thing is." It was that thing felt very weird to me. Like, we need a reason. Here's a reason. It didn't feel like a good enough reason to me.
Well, it would have been a good enough reason if we didn't keep getting hit over the head with it. It felt to me like they felt they needed to keep reminding us what
they did, because I forgot. I would keep forgetting about that the whole time.
I forget about her, but it became a little bit tedious in that Duffy was so everything she talked about was his girl.
Yeah,
which is great, good for her, but it.
So just like with like a Bond thing, there always needs to be some sex involved. Yeah, and again, the first season made sense to me. Second season made sense to me. This season, I felt there was no chemistry between Reacher and this DEA agent Duffy. I felt there was nothing, and then all of a sudden she jumped on him, or whatever, and it was just like, it kind of. I was like, "Ooh, no, I don't like this," because there was nothing there, and even to the last finale, nothing there, in my opinion. I just felt like that was so forced. It just that really bothered me too.
Yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was. I got the distinct impression they kind of threw it in because they decided they needed to have that because they
Sure.
had it in previous seasons, and
Yeah.
she was the only one around.
I felt like in the previous seasons there was some sort of heart. There was something that drew you in. There is this Beck's kid, Richard or whatever, that I felt that, but it wasn't. They didn't bring that up enough to keep me going there. And it felt like it was kind of 6 episodes of leading up to these very intense episodes at the end, which were great. And in this finale, the fight scenes and everything were really great and very satisfying. But still, weeding through this whole storyline to me just didn't hold up.
Yeah. So previous season, no, there's only 2. The 2 previous seasons. You know how it's gonna end, kind of, right? Because
Sure.
he's gonna live.
Sure.
He has more seasons to do.
Yeah.
So he's gonna live. Neely's gonna live. You know that.
Yeah.
And it just felt to me like this was the most predictable season. Like 3 or 4 episodes.
Yeah.
By the 3rd episode, you're like,
yeah, I know where this is going.
There's going to be this big thing at the end, and he's
Right.
going to kill the huge guy, and then he's going to kill Quinn.
Absolutely. We're
Spoiler alert.
definitely were last season we didn't know anything
Yeah.
with people and stuff. So
You didn't know who was going to die.
I definitely agree with that. I would love to hear from someone who has read these books and especially read the book that this season is based on, which I do not have the name of. But is this how this goes down? Was there anything that they took out of this season that may have made this feel a little more grounded for us? I mean, I understand why everything happened. I understand why he got into it to go after this past villain in his life. I get all of why. It just feels like very much a filler.
Yeah, well,
And hopefully we're going to move on to something else.
yeah, to be fair to them, they're taking a book that probably takes 2 or 3 hours to read. I don't know how
Or
long.
9 or 10.
Or 9 or 10 or whatever. and making an 8-episode series out of it. So there's gonna have to be filler in it.
Well, it's not about. I'm worried what they took out that maybe would have helped us or something. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I felt like even bringing in Neely felt very like. I was all of a sudden I was like, how did these guys find her? And now she's. It just, I don't know. And maybe it was the thing of like everything working out in his favor was getting somewhat tiring. You like the hero to be the hero, but then you do want there to be, it's like when I watch Superman, it gets boring. No one can beat up Superman. So it's like, this is kind of how that felt until this episode where finally there was some good interaction there. I don't know. It just didn't hold up for me.
Yeah, well...
Now, I still really liked it, so don't get me wrong. I still really like the show. I'm still really looking forward to season 4. I just hope it goes up from here.
Yeah, and I don't even know how they do that, but I decided after like the 2nd episode of season 1, I'm watching this no matter where it goes, no matter how it goes. and look, like you just said, I'm not mad at it. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Out of the 3 seasons, it's the one I enjoyed probably the least, but it's still way up there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's where we got to start. That the bar is really high.
It is.
So even though this wasn't as good, it's still a very high season.
Yeah.
I'm giving the 3rd season a 7.
Ooh.
Because I look forward to going back and rewatching this show. Mm-hmm. And so I think, again, I would score season 1, 2. Probably season 2 higher than season 1. I loved season 2.
Okay, interesting.
And when I think of going back and rewatching, I'm going to be very excited to watch those seasons. I may skip this season. Nothing really new about Reacher came out other than his previous mentee that he had. I don't know that if that comes into play in future seasons, then maybe I'll feel like I need to come back and watch the season. So that's why I'm giving this one a 7. Probably season 1 would have been an 8, season 2 would have been a 9, so that's kind of how I'm looking at this.
Okay. I enjoyed season 1, I think, the most of all. And maybe that's because it was fresh and new and whatever.
Yeah.
I too would give season 3 a 7.
Okay.
I enjoyed it. Don't get us wrong. We probably sound a little negative, and it's only negative as it relates to this show having set such a high bar. Like
exactly.
You said.
Yeah.
It's still a great show. I still cannot figure out what's so compelling about this character to me. There's just something about
there's something about someone who wants to have the right thing happen all the time and justice prevail. And as an autistic person, that's how I live my life. I am literally programmed for that. And so to see someone who's willing to take any action whatsoever to make sure that happens is so satisfying to me.
Absolutely. But for me, it's even more than that. There's something very compelling to me that draws me into Alan Ritchson.
Oh, really?
And I cannot figure it out. He's a good-looking guy. He's got a great body. It's just his... And you see him... So here's the thing. We've seen him in a couple interviews, and I've seen him be himself. And he's so not Reacher.
Yeah, no. I'm much more of a fan of Reacher than I am of Alan Ritchson.
Well, I don't mind him as a person, but it's like he's truly acting because he's not like that.
Yeah.
But there's just something about the style and delivery of Reacher.
Yeah.
And him specifically. I've tried to put other people, visualize other people in that role.
Well, you don't have to. Go watch the movies. You can see Tom Cruise in it.
Yeah, not Tom Cruise. The character really does call for somebody.
It is,
pretty substantial.
So in the book, it is written as him. It describes Alan Ritchson in the book. So Tom Cruise never should have done it.
Tom Cruise was not, no offense, Tom, if you're watching. He should have, he was not Reacher. He was not what that character was laid out.
I don't know. I never saw the movies. So I have no idea if he played it the same. I don't know. But anyway, we don't need to get into that.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. Yeah, you're drawn to him as a character. And thank goodness, right? Because this is his show.
Yeah.
Try to tell people when I'm telling them to go and watch this show. Because I do recommend it to people. And even if you are averse to violence or something like that, it's still something that I feel like people could get past because the violence is usually something you want to have happen, which I know sounds bad, but when he takes the bad guy and gets rid of him, you're like, oh, okay, he's not just, and he's very particular. He makes sure he tries as much as possible that no one else really gets hurt.
He kills a lot of people, but they're all bad,
and it feels good.
There are some, and maybe that's it about season 3. Season 3's finale, you knew what you wanted to have happen.
Yeah.
Well, you knew what needed to happen. You just didn't know how. The fight scene with the gorilla was fantastic. It was drawn out.
What and just sorry, go ahead. You'll forget. You'll forget.
Well,
go ahead.
I kept saying, it looked like he was dead, and I'm like, I don't think he's dead. And there he is. He comes back. Spoiler alert.
Yeah, I don't like spoilers.
The final thing with Quinn didn't.
Oh, I don't. Again, I don't want to give any spoilers away, so I don't really even want to talk about that. But it's all satisfying to me. My issue is that I think that it took till the end episode to really get those satisfying kills, versus again in the first 2. It was throughout the whole season. Mm-hmm. And that kind of kept us pumped up and going. You know what I mean? So again, maybe that is why this one felt like it took a little while. Yeah,
this season, those were, instead of being satisfied little inserts, they were more like distractions.
Yeah, like he had to get himself out of trouble again or something. Yeah. Highly recommend, and I do recommend this to everyone. I think it's a great show. I think it's not as dark as I think we're making it sound.
Right.
For somehow, it still manages to be light. There is still comedy. Whoever they put around him always seems to, support him in a good way. And so it's a great show. It's definitely worth watching if you haven't checked it out. And definitely if you have read the books, would love to hear from you to hear how things are different or, I know they're going out of order in the books. So they're like picking one from the middle and making, whatever season out of it. So would love to hear from someone about that as well. And if you've watched the show, what do you think? And how does season 3 stand up for you?
Yeah. Still highly, highly recommend.
Yeah. And definitely want to touch on the technical aspects. The fight choreography of this show, the stunt people, the explosions and the car crashes and, all of the gunfight or just hand-to-hand combat. They really do a good job. I don't think I ever see a fake anything.
No, very rarely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Anthony Michael Hall was back, and he was, it was, I kind of kept thinking, like, about the other actors. Can you imagine coming on set, and it's like, there's Anthony Michael Hall, like, who didn't grow up with him, even though he was, like, 16 back then, but it's still just such a, he's just an icon, really. Yeah. He's one of those, so that was really cool to see him come back and have the kind of character that he had, which was
it was different for him.
Yeah. That's Reacher.
Yeah,
season 3.
Highly recommend.
Yes,
watch it.
Definitely check it out. And that's it for now.
Sounds good.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Please subscribe if you can. Like this video. And we will see you next time.
Okay.
Thanks so much.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.